the fastest person, but not lap record pace. You just want to beat everybody else.
It's always nicest to be the fastest in the group. That's fair to say.
So you just need to know where you're losing time relative to everybody else.
Yeah, but to be fair, that depends on the person. I like to improve. No matter how fast you are, there's always going to be somebody faster than you. So at the end of the day, you try to be, or I try to be, the best version of who I am. So I try and do the best possible thing I can.
Got the video in the first session, which was brilliant. It's so strange because it's been, such a long time since I was here, but you really don't forget. I mean, there was bits of it where I couldn't, in my mind, run through exactly where the track went, but it very quickly fell into place. And even the third session I went out in, I was only going a half a second quicker, well, 0.8 of a second quicker, and the bike felt great. So we got a good lap for the footage. So kind of like, not much point in messing about really. You're just wearing the damn thing out.
I'd say, for instance, went to a World Superbike event. Qualifying for me would be happy days. I could be 10 seconds behind the guy in front and I'd be absolutely made up, because that's the best version of who I am. I would always try and improve, and this is how you improve. Always goes to best lap, but if it isn't on best lap, or you go to another lap, you can go back quickly by pressing the little cup at the top. But you've got to make this work for you. You can't buy data and expect to plug it in and download that chip into your neck and upload the information and all of a sudden you're faster. It doesn't work like that.
Actually want to improve?
I hope people want to improve, otherwise you're treading water essentially. And I do see people a lot on track days, and they'll obviously go through a period of improvement, and then they'll kind of plateau with their riding, and then they're just going out and repeating. And the danger of that is, if you do that, you kind of get stuck in a bit of a rut. If you're riding as fast as you can in that rut and you're trying to improve your time without understanding either how to, or not what you're doing wrong, because you'll be doing a lot right as well, but understanding the differences. If you just try and ride faster, that's where the mistakes will start to come in. Hopefully you'll keep it upright, because effectively you're repeating the same thing but trying to go faster instead of changing what you're doing to give you that improvement. You can change sometimes and it has a negative effect. Well, you learn from that and you do something else, try something different again and try and move forward with it. It's all about, I think, about perception and how you perceive data and visually stuff like that. It's all input you've got to try and process. And look at the data. There you have it. At the bottom here, it's broke it up into laps, and then match that up with how it feels on the bike. And data, visual, feel is three sides of a triangle which you all have to kind of fit together, and it's making it fit, finding a way to make it fit.
So my last question is, when we next ride the bike and we're somewhere like Jerez, when you're riding round, will you have the data plot channels in your mind as you're riding round? Well,
before I go out at various sessions, what I'll try and do is work on sections at a time, maybe even down to a corner at a time, as opposed to try and memorise every single point on the track, every improvement I've got to try and do, because it all becomes a fog. So you're better off working on a section of a track, or even focus on a corner and really nail that and think, okay, I've made a genuine improvement, the data's showing I've improved there, and then move forward with it. And then perhaps, certainly if you're away for 3 days, and you've got consistent weather and so on, is to combine them and put them all together, as opposed to try and go out and get every corner right every single lap. You try to stay consistent, don't get me wrong, but I will be consistent, but if I'm trying to improve on one bit, I'll really focus on that one bit and put all my thoughts into that, as opposed to try and get the whole lap right every single lap. So I can be pretty consistent, but I'll have a spike when it comes to the bit that I'm trying to focus on. And then by the end of 15 sessions, day 3, I'll have a load of spikes and I'll try and put them all together and do an ideal lap. And then it's finding out your ideal lap, which will be your best bits of let's say a track has got, say, section 1, section 2, 3 and 4. Your ideal lap is a combination of those 4 best sections, which you might never do. But what's really interesting to see, if you've got this data available, putting as many of them together as possible. And the more you've got together, the more consistent you are. So if you're struggling with your consistency, what you'll see is these sections being miles apart all over the place. And so that's another thing that you can utilise is something as simple as timing, as long as you can accurately record the individual sections and put them time sections together. But the problems with just looking at time is a weird thing in the sense that you can actually do a good lap and get an awful lot wrong. And you think to yourself, okay, I've improved time-wise, but you potentially could be slower in quite a few sections and blindingly fast in another section. And that doesn't show up in the time frame, but it will show up in the data. If you're riding at quite a good pace, differences between a poor lap and a good lap start to get smaller, the increments get smaller. And that's when you really have to start focusing on the minutiae, the small bits, to get the differences. And realistically, data is the only way you're going to find that.
This is showing brake pressure.
Do you think riders can be bothered with what they see as the faff of data?
I must admit, it's not faffy, and the more you do it, the more hands-on you get, the easier it comes. The average track day, you've got quite a bit of time between the sessions anyway, so it's not like you haven't got a time. You've got to make time, and if you have it mapped out, so you're doing it right, you obviously come in, tyre warmers on, check your pressures, fuel the bike up, do anything else that you need to do to the bike, which is generally not a lot if you've had a good session. Hydrate, have a sit down, plug your chip in, download it, and then you've got sort of easily half an hour to have a little look at the data from the lap you've just done, compare it against a comparable lap.
What I'm happy about here is looking at other traces. That's a much flatter curve. Now I know normally that's not good, you want to be like that, drive to a break, but turn 1, 2 and 3 are all kind of together, and what was happening, I was having a peak and then it dropped off. But that shows that I'm actually slightly faster through the corner as a whole, even though my terminal speed is only 258.9.
And then look at the data in slightly different ways so they actually get on board with it. And once the penny drops, it's brilliant, and then you kind of get into it. I'm learning all the time. I mean, I've learned a few things recently with the data, which has helped me explain it and understand it better for me. So it's like an organic thing, I think. I need feedback now, because I can drone on about stuff like this all day.